The endocrine system is made up of several endocrine glands. The endocrine gland cells, that are usually cuboidal epithelial cells, secrete a hormone. So these gland cells release a hormone, which is a chemical that could be either a steroid or a non-steroid molecule. Once the hormone is released, it goes right into the bloodstream. So the hormone enters the bloodstream. The hormone travels in the bloodstream until it arrives at the target cell. A target cell is any cell in the body that carries a receptor for this particular hormone. So the hormone arrives at the target cell. Once it arrives at the target cell, the hormone looks for a receptor in the target cell. So it binds to the receptor in the target cell. This receptor could either be outside the target cell, on the surface of the target cell, or it could be inside the target cell. Once it binds to the target cell responds to the hormone. Depending upon how they travel through the bloodstream and their action on the target cell, hormones are divided into two types: steroid hormones and non-steroid hormones. Steroid hormones are hydrophobic. Non-steroid hormones are hydrophilic. So based on that, let's see how they travel and how they impact the target cell. This is the bloodstream, the blood vessel. The steroid hormones are shown in blue. The steroid hormones do not mix with water, so they need a transport protein, shown here in green, to carry them to the target cell. So steroid hormones cannot travel by themselves as free hormones. They must be accompanied by a transport protein. Once they arrive at the target cell, the transport protein releases the steroid hormone. Remember that the cell membrane has a phospholipid bilayer which is hydrophobic. Steroid molecules are hydrophobic too, so they can enter the target cell quite easily. And once they enter the target cell, they find their receptor, shown in white, and that acts on the target cell. And the target cell responds. So this is fairly simple. The non-steroid hormones, they travel fairly easily through the bloodstream because they do mix with water. They don't need a transport protein to carry them. So the non-steroid hormones travel as free hormones in the bloodstream. However, once they arrive at the target cell, they have a problem. Non-steroid hormones are hydrophilic, and the phospholipid bilayer, the interior of it, is hydrophobic, so they cannot enter the target cell. Non-steroid hormones do not enter the target cell. Instead, they find a receptor on the surface of the target cell and bind to it. The receptor is shown in yellow. This receptor then turns on a G protein molecule, shown in pink, turns it on, which in turn activates an enzyme, shown in green, on the cell membrane. This enzyme then activates another molecule, which we now call the second messenger or the secondary messenger. This yellow molecule that we see here finally acts on the DNA of the target cell, and the target cell responds. This is quite complex, and therefore we call the hormone a primary messenger because it's bringing the primary message from the endocrine gland. But it does not directly act on the target cell's DNA. We need a secondary messenger to do that, and that secondary messenger is shown here in yellow. Let's take a look at how the non-steroid hormone impacts its target cell. Here we're dealing with a receptor that is coupled with a special protein called the G protein. The hormone is shown in blue. It binds to its receptor. The receptor then activates the G protein. The activated G protein then binds to an enzyme that is also located on the membrane of the target cell. The activated enzyme now is able to activate ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and convert it to cyclic AMP, which is adenosine monophosphate. Cyclic AMP is a very important molecule which acts directly on the DNA of the target cell. The target cell can now respond. So here we have it. The hormone is the primary messenger because it's carrying the message from the endocrine gland. It cannot enter the cell, so it makes use of a secondary messenger, which is cyclic AMP.